Yes, we will hop right in. So hello, we are Team Watt, and today we will be presenting on the Design for Disassembly Challenge, and in particular talking about our design to modularize the stick-built home, and we will start at the foundation and build our way up.
Great, yeah. So our home needs a strong foundation, but we also require flexibility for our modular design. We imagine a home that leaves a small footprint on its land and requires minimal concrete, which is a carbon-intensive material. So rather than installing a traditional excavated concrete foundation, we will use a pin foundation, which is also referred to as a low-impact foundation technology, or LIFT. So LIFT systems use steel pins to anchor a concrete pier into the bearing soil, and these piers will support the load-bearing walls of the module. These systems are easy to install and remove, and they can be reused or recycled. So this makes adding or removing a module from our home simple, and it will give the homeowner flexibility to design their space according to their current needs. Next slide.
And as we move up, taking a leaf out of the prefab or modular paradigm currently, the goal would be then to use SIPs or structurally insulated panels or something similar, a derivative of that idea, in order to modularize the outer envelope of our house space. This would be added using impermanent fixtures and mechanical joints rather than things like adhesives or non-removable pneumatic nails and similar, as well as increasing the use of dynamic interior walls, so floating walls that can be shifted upon the needs of the resident. As well as the addition of modules to create changing rooms, etc.
All right, moving on up to the ceiling. As we can see on the left, traditional drywall ceilings are typically destroyed during deconstruction. Dropboard ceilings are a bit controversial in that many people think they don't look very beautiful. However, they are much more easily recoverable, and using mechanical fixings like those shown on the right make it very easy to assemble and disassemble, avoiding destruction of materials and allowing for reuse. So the largest challenge would just be addressing the bias against them visually. However, as we see in the center, it is possible to develop drop ceilings, which do actually look quite beautiful compared to those seen in commercial spaces. This choice of drop ceilings also enables us to use PCMs for reducing energy needs, which I will describe next. All right, and so more than 40% of energy in residential building operations is consumed for heating and cooling. Therefore, reducing the energy needs for heating and cooling would have a great impact on the sustainability of homes. So PCMs, or phase change materials, basically work to stabilize the temperature of a room. They melt when a room gets hot, absorbing energy to cool the room back down. And similarly, they can solidify to release energy if a room is cooling down. And so the figure on the right shows the temperature change throughout the day in black and how PCMs in green can stabilize this temperature. This reduces electricity consumption for heating and cooling, reducing costs for the homeowner, as well as having a positive environmental impact. And so we propose the inclusion of flexible mats infused with PCMs for use on walls, which allows them to be easily added and removed for recyclability in other homes. And additionally, we propose leveraging the drop ceiling, which would allow us to store PCMs in the ceiling. This would make them easy to add, easy to recover, and also it would incentivize the ceiling being deconstructed in a productive, recyclable way.
All right, let's top it off. So our home will have paneled metal roofing, and our preferred metal would be aluminum. Though metal roofing is not as often seen on family homes, it has many advantages. So it's extremely durable and lightweight. It almost never requires repair and has a long lifetime. Metal roofing is also extremely energy efficient as it naturally reflects light and emits heat. So it can keep our home cool. Additionally, in regions where it would be sensible, we can affix solar panels onto our roof to provide electricity for the house. Metal roofs are especially good for this. And most importantly, metal roofing is highly amenable to disassembly. So the panels can be easily recycled or reused, and they'll be fastened with visible and accessible screws. So the roof can be disassembled with simple tools and low-skill labor when necessary.
So altogether with the design that we're proposing, we're suggesting a change in the relationship between the homeowner and property to allow for greater ease in purchase of a home without significant mortgage. You can buy an individual base model and then extend that with the use of modules. This sort of modification market allows for a lower barrier to entry and therefore greater autonomy and equity across the board in the homeowners market. So thank you very much for your time, and we can take questions now.
Excellent, thank you. So we have some time for some Q&A. Yeah, I was curious to learn more about the specific phase change materials that you guys were looking into. They can be effective in certain areas of the home, and they're especially effective near when they're installed actually near the heating and ventilation system, because they store energy and then they give off energy throughout the evening. But you obviously kind of generally want your walls and ceilings to be consistent in terms of how they act as a thermal barrier to the exterior. And so I was hoping to learn more about, where you were anticipating on applying those phase change materials, and if you had specific products in mind where you saw it was applied on walls and ceilings in the past.
Right, absolutely. That is a great question, and one that was hard to include in our 5 minutes, I think, but I'll throw out a few ideas. One of them is a very common thing that we found in commercial buildings actually is because you have typically these kind of ugly drop ceilings, the like rectangular or like the squares that you can pop up. Actually, a lot of businesses that do employ PCMs will simply throw it up in the ceilings. And so it does make it, like I said, very easy to add and remove, which we thought was a real benefit in terms of making sure that these high value materials, even in the destruction of a building, would be recoverable. In terms of what actual materials would be used, yeah, Cleo has our slide, great. So there are obviously a lot of different products on the market. And so based on both the geography and the particular needs of an area, we might propose a different specific type of PCM product. And so one thing we noted is areas where there's a really high temperature differential throughout the day, this is particularly effective. But considering like the durability of the material and the different temperature needs is also something we would consider. Another thing that's possible is combining both organic and inorganics in order to kind of get the best of both worlds. And so we didn't want to suggest like a specific single product because we do recognize that for different climates, there would be important trade-offs where it might justify the use of one over the other.
In addition to the ceiling, there is the possible addition of under the flooring. With the sort of modular mindset that we have, potentially flooring would be pre-cut and into particular sizes for additional modules. And that would be very easy to integrate similar types of PCM mats that match the ceiling tiles as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious about end of life stuff. So the metal roofing makes a lot of sense, particularly aluminum selection, right? Aluminum's fairly easy to recycle. I'm curious about your actual, like your wall choice, right? For SIPS panels. What do you guys think the end of life looks like for that, and how would it be reused?
So I can address that. Our general idea or mindset in this proposal is essentially to shift end of life further and allow for more of a buyer's market in between. So sort of taking up a similar model to the Tokyo housing market, for example, where most value is stored in the property and then the building materials can be reused and sold. So that way, there aren't really existing models at the moment for how construction companies can displace the cost and the recovered cost from selling these pieces. But with like SIPs, for example, if we have a slightly different take on SIPs that are a little bit more panel based, that can therefore be inserted and shifted a little bit. As you add modules, you can potentially resell those to other people who are modularizing their own home. That way, there's always an opportunity to buy and sell rather than focus on destruction and landfill. Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you guys talk a little bit about some of the barriers you see to adoption of this and how you might overcome them?
Sure. I guess one that I did mention during the presentation, just like thinking about the drop ceilings, a lot of people are averse to them because typical drop ceilings, like the ones we see in, like I said, commercial buildings are pretty ugly, but trying to, find ways to add aesthetic appeal, like what we see in the center, I think is one valuable thing we can do. PCMs, another challenge is that they do require a lot of capital investment upfront, and so they pay back very slowly. But I think a potential way to help with that would be looking into ways to perhaps provide government intervention, because there is benefits to reducing energy needs. Those are just a couple of ideas.
Another possible way to interpret a lot of these proposed elements is to integrate individual elements as opposed to all at the same time. Obviously, this is sort of an ideal housing situation, but likely won't be adopted all at once in a broad movement of the housing market. But by allowing for greater inclusion of modularization and a mindset shift towards modularization, more of this can be more easily adopted. So instead of going from, oh, we're going to start buying a base home and start adding to it, you can include elements like the roofs and drop ceilings, which might be a great place to start due to their ease of adoption and aesthetic appeal potentially.
All right, thank you so much, by the way, just for all of your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.